Howdy, all. It's Friday, and we're going to be talking, well, maybe some rumors, some CHL top prospect stuff. But I wanted to start with this. I've tried to determine what is the most boring sports weekend or sports time period of the year. The All-Star break in baseball, because no other sport is going at the time, is a candidate. For me, this one's close. You've got the Pro Bowl and the NHL All-Star game, and I'm not throwing slings and arrows at the All-Star game, but I'm just saying it's not exactly an exciting event.
Right.
The Pro Bowl is a waste. And you're in between the NFC AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. So you're sort of like in a sports dead zone right now. And I'm just trying, what is the one that you think is more boring?
I mean, I think the NFL Pro Bowl, I haven't watched it in probably a decade. And I used to watch it, and I just completely stopped. I'll watch the All-Star game. I'm watching the interviews. I'm also an addict, so I don't know if I'm the right person to talk to about this. I'll do coverage on Sportsology. I have somebody down there. So so you can't use me objectively for that, but I definitely will watch. There's not much else. I mean, the top prospects game was good last night, but that was last night. So now heading into the weekend, a lot of movies. I could see a lot of movies being shown in my house. I'll catch up on demand and what's on the DVR, and and I just did some draft rankings, and I'll do some more. I'll leak some more out at some point, and it's been a busy week, so it's okay for me to have a slow weekend.
A good show on Showtime called Billions with Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis, who was in Homeland for a few years. Really good show. I've only seen the first episode, but I'm going to go back for more. And usually
Giamatti's good in everything.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. He really is. But yeah, no, it's just, I don't know. I mean, I definitely now. Thankfully, there is American Hockey League to still cover. I'm going up to Toronto tomorrow to cover the Marlies' last game before the AHL All-Star break. So there's a little bit of an overlap. So I'm going to DVR the skills competition to see if John Scott can get over 85 miles an hour on his slapper.
He might be able to. He's a big guy. Look, there's a lot of big guys that could shoot hard. They can. And so I fully expect them to hit the 90-mile-an-hour mark. I do.
Now, somebody in the chat, because I asked some questions, and if there's anybody out there who wants to ask any questions, I know Act will probably be here in a little bit. But somebody was asking, do you think it's fair that the NHL is suspending Taves and suspending Ovechkin for not showing up when, and in the same hand, they were trying to prevent John Scott from going? Is that fair? And I'm like, it's not fair, but that's the way things are. That's the way. I think they didn't want John Scott to go because they thought it was going to be a sideshow, and it's a little bit of a sideshow because in Nashville, it was the biggest press conference. He had the most attention.
It's fair because it's all been voted on and ratified on, and this is why they get big contracts, and this is all a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly would have been more upset if they had prevented him from being there. I mean, and now I think, okay, it's accepted, and now it's quirky and whatever, but it's there. I mean, he really he got the votes. The system was the way it was.
Yep.
Let it go.
Yeah, that's it. He's there. Let him have fun.
Okay, let's start the show here. Hello Hockey World. Today is Friday, January 29th, 2016.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Russ, last night, in between me watching Republican candidates going back and forth in a debate, I didn't
watch that.
Yeah, I know. Well, it was, what, honestly, and I'm not going to go on this because nobody cares, but 13 million people watched that debate, and I'm glad there was that many because I didn't really want the jerk businessman from New York to be able to say that, he took all the viewership away because he's
fair.
The center of all attention.
Yeah.
But anyway, but in between the breaks, I got a chance to look at some of the CHL top prospect game in Vancouver. I'm going to be interviewing Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet next week for my little SoundCloud buzzcast that I'm doing. And I was impressed with a couple players, but I wanted to connect it with the top 10 list that you just put on your website, Sportsology. Not that it's a big bulletin that Austin Matthews is the number one selection.
No, I think everybody knew that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
there's no drama there. There's absolutely, you can't even create fake drama with that.
This is okay, and you saying that, it makes me.
Well, because there are some people out there that will try and create fake drama.
At the end of and these are the people at the end of the World Championship. People were saying, "Oh, well, Austin Matthews had an okay tournament." I'm like, are you kidding me?
Just go away.
Yeah, I mean,
he had like 7 goals. Like, what else could he do?
Yeah, no, he was. Connor McDavid is he's fine.
All right, so Jeremy Roenick had the record with 8 goals, but I think Jeremy Roenick's a pretty good player too.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It was in Finland. Puljujarvi and Laine had great tournaments. I get that. I think maybe the fairest argument was that the gap between 1, 2, and 3 is not as big as people thought. But I still think Matthews is the best.
I mean, we all still have to remember that the top 3, they're all playing in professional leagues.
Right.
I still think it's kind of harder for Matthews in his situation. Those guys are playing in their homeland. They're used to it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's as big a deal as just picking up and going to Switzerland. So the fact that he had, I don't know, last I looked at, what does he have, like 30 goals, 32 goals, something like that?
Something like that. He's at least in the 20s. I know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, there's no fake drama here. He's number one. Like, that's it.
Now, what I was interested in looking at your list is you had Laine ahead of Puljujarvi, and a lot of people have it flip-flopped.
Yeah, because they like the skill level on Puljujarvi, and so do I, and he does make prettier passes. But at the end of the day, I see Laine able to make almost all the same plays as Puljujarvi. He'll get a few less points per game. There's no question Puljujarvi will be a bigger point guy. But as far as having a bigger impact on a game, especially when it gets a little tighter, if you're imagining him in the playoffs and things like that, I could see Laine being a little bit bigger performer because he just has that little bit of extra power and brute strength and toughness that Puljujarvi doesn't have. Doesn't mean that Puljujarvi is not a great player either, by the way. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about 3 people who weren't in the prospects game yesterday, but
right.
The one, and I've heard this as a concern, and I don't buy it. I don't think this would dissuade somebody from picking one of these 2 players with the 2nd or 3rd pick. But there is a little bit of a concern for some people that, okay, they're, Finland, they're playing in the Finnish league, the SM Liga. Would they come over at 18, or are they bound by a contract?
They're bound by contracts. I mean, now as far as next year, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the status is of both those guys' contracts. I don't remember hearing them talking about it recently. So, but if I had a guess, my guess is that they have outs in them that do allow it, and then it's up to the team whether they want to get them over early.
Yeah, because, Barkov came over at 18. He was the 2nd pick in the draft, and he came over at 18 years old. So I would think that there would be a way of working around it. But, I know that when William Nylander was selected by the Leafs, they wanted him to stay over in Sweden, but there was a window if they didn't make the decision by, say, January 10th or whatever, it was some day, then he was there for the rest of the year. And
because they don't want their team and season disrupted. It's understandable.
Right. Now, number 4 on your list, you had Matthew Tkachuk, and he played in the game last night. And from what I saw, he looked like, I've seen Matthew Tkachuk play in the World Junior, and I saw him in person along with you and Kevin at the USA prospect game in Buffalo in September. I think it's too early to make comparisons to his dad. I think that's unfair.
Way too early.
Yeah, it's really unfair. I just think that, he's a big kid. He's 6'4".
His dad dominated the NHL for like 10 years.
Right.
You can't put that on the kid right now, as good as he looks.
Right. Yeah, I know. Exactly. But I always have been in favor. I always favor players who have NHL pedigree. And when you have a player, and his dad is, would you consider Keith Tkachuk a borderline Hall of Famer possibly?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So would I. I mean, and in that case,
he's still one of the great American players of all time. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and and he's 17 or just turning 18 years old now, and he's 200 pounds and he's 6'1". He's probably going to grow a couple more inches and a couple more pounds. You're talking about an NHL power forward, and you're talking about a guy who we've seen who has, good speed and good skill and good puck handling ability. So that's the entire package here.
Well, that's the crazy thing is these four guys are all power forwards with this crazy skill and finesse and everything else in their game. Like, it's a new era. Back in the day, you'd find some guys with these attributes, but now we're finding a lot of guys with these attributes. And that's because of all the work that they do from a very young age on skating and everything else. It's truly a credit to the sport now. So now the power forward, I used to say, hey, power forwards are a bit of a long shot, and they have been in the past. I expect over the next few years, because of a crop like this, with a lot of power forwards, that those numbers are now going to start to change a bit.
Well, it's weird because last year was strong in centers.
Right.
This year is heavy on power forwards and defensemen.
Yep.
Now the thing is, a guy like Mitch Marner, who was drafted as a center, he may project as an NHL winger. I think the Leafs knew that.
Yeah.
I think they're still going to try to see if he can play center, and then all else fails, move him to the wing. But Strome and Barzal and McDavid, and there's so many others from last year. In this draft, it's Matthews, and then I think probably, and I know, we'll get down to the bottom of your top 10 list, but I heard McLeod has been basically the one that most teams have as second on the center list as second best center prospect in this draft.
I think that's fair. It's arguable. I had McLeod in this list, as you can see. Mm-hmm. The only problem, look, he'll fill out. He's got an NHL body. He's actually got surprisingly good speed and gets an open ice. But I've noticed that sometimes when he gets an open ice, he doesn't know what to do with the puck. And so that's that little bit of decision-making that I'd like to see improve on him. And that's why, I put Pierre-Luc Dubois ahead of him. Look, I was pretty lucky on the show the other day. I talked about Dubois and I talked about Pascal Laberge, and they both starred in the game. Like,
don't pat yourself on the back too hard. You'll separate.
But when does that happen? Like, honestly, it was, it's a little bit of dumb luck there. But I think Dubois really did the most to increase his draft stock in that game because he played a complete game. Yeah. For people that say, the game was boring, this or that, there were a lot of plays that he made defensively, a lot of power moves to the net. Even when he opened the game and hit the crossbar, I was like, all right, this guy's making me look good. That's how I was thinking in my head. This guy is going to turn it on this game. And he ended up with 3 points. Laberge ended up with 3 points. Right. But he made Laberge better. Like, that was the obvious thing. Laberge has his own gifts and attributes, but this guy made him that much better. There was an instant chemistry between those two that lasted the entire game.
Now, here's where, it's going to be. We know, and I think we realize that from now until late June, this is going to be the area of debate, which is
they'll be jostling, yeah.
The 6 through 10. I think the top 5 or top 4 are locked.
Top 4 are pretty set, I think.
Yeah, we don't know the order. I think that there are some teams that might take Puljujärvi over Laine. There may be.
Hey, look, there still could be a team that if they draft second wants Tkachuk because you know what, they just want him.
I honestly, and I have no inside information on this, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I'll just take a wild stab. If the Maple Leafs are second overall, I think they would take Tkachuk over Laine or Puljujärvi.
And I can't kill the pick. No. He's improved so much just from the time we saw him in September. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but number 5 and number 6, there are 2 defensemen who seem to be the highest level of blue liners in this upcoming draft class, and Chychrun has been rated as high as second as recently as September or October. He's sort of slipped back. He's having an decent year in the OHL.
He recovered from a shoulder injury. We have to be fair about that.
Right, but he went not head to head, but he played in the game last night with Ulevi, the London Knights defenseman who played for Finland in the World Junior. And from your observation, you think Juolevi blew him out.
I do. I mean, look, it was a bad game for Chychrun, but it's one bad game. Like, I'm not going to base all of this. And this has not been all based on one game because Juolevi played in the World Juniors. Like, this is, a body of work for both of them. The thing about Juolevi, it's really more about Juolevi climbing ahead of Chychrun than Chychrun dropping. And the reason is that now I believe there's more offense in Juolevi's game than I knew that was there. The funny thing is when you start to break apart stats, like you look at, some of the junior hockey stuff, and a defenseman has a lot of assists. No offense to defensemen out there, but there's a lot of assists that get made because of great plays by forwards that just happen to get the pass in the right spot, right? But now I've noticed that Juolevi's got a shot that I didn't realize he had, this sort of like sneaky wrist shot that really, I think, could fool some goalies and get him some goals besides the amount of points that he'll normally put up. But I think he's just a better defenseman at this point. Now, maybe that'll change. Maybe Chychrun will come back on second half of the year. But I think right now he's just a better defenseman than Chychrun. And I think it's just the overall defensive play that has really put Juolevi over him. Because, like, if I'm a GM today, I'm taking Juolevi because at the end of the day, they both have similar skill sets to me. But Juolevi might be better in his own end. And at the end of the day, that's where the NHL is. So I have to go with that. As far as Chychrun goes, look, he brings the puck up the ice great. He's got a great shot. Everything is there. Like I said, he's definitely not Aaron Ekblad. Like, I'm willing to say that now and don't want to see the kid get compared to him because I don't think it's fair. Mm-hmm. All that said, there's some great attributes there. And so if I was picking next, I certainly wouldn't be upset. I think this is just a matter of splitting hairs, really.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've got the echo again. God,
it's back.
Okay. I think it's gone. No, I mean, Juolevi has benefited, and maybe his improvement offensively has come from the fact that he's playing on London and he's playing with Marner and Kachuk and Dvorak. I mean, he's got so many good forwards playing there and so many creative offensive players that by osmosis he's just learning to the offensive part of the game, learning how to do it. I mean, it's a learning process.
Yes.
And it may be unfair to compare Chychrun to Ekblad, but the funny thing is everybody who talks about Chychrun compares him to Ekblad. Everybody.
Yeah, well, not me. I'm not in that.
I know. But I'm saying, like,
no, but a lot of people have. I know.
Now you've got Dubois, it's spelled Dublois, but it's Dubois.
Right. Listen, once I hear it, I go with that pronunciation because I've butchered enough names over the years.
Right. I've been calling him Patrick Laine the last 4 weeks. Before that, it was Patrick Lane.
I know.
So yeah, exactly.
We all learn. And then when he comes here, we'll change it anyhow. Right.
Well, I till my dying day, I'll remember the fact that two brothers, František Kaberle and Thomas Kaberle. It's like, okay, could you guys get together at
come up with one?
Yeah, at your family home in Kladno during the summer. Can you decide what the family name is? So
I'll tell you who I blame this on. This happened I want to say it was in the 90s with Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh, Gellar.
That's her name. Yes. When she was on All My Children, that was her name.
She was on All My Children, really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
She was like Erica's daughter. I know. I'm giving too much out here.
Wait a second. I'm watching Downton Abbey and listen to Sarah McLachlan, and you're making fun of me, and you watch All My Children?
I used to. It's not on the air anymore. But anyhow. But that's how her name was. Then all of a sudden she got popular with Buffy and a few other things, and then it was Gellar. And it's like, okay, all right.
And now she's Mrs. Prinz.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, but with all that, I think that's been the funny part of the last name thing. But, the thing that I feel bad about is, like, let's take Jake Voracek. He was drafted Jakub Voracek. He was called Jakub for his first couple of years in Columbus. Then, we get him tired as Americans. We call him Jake. He comes over, and it's Jake. And it's like it's got to be confusing. And these players just give up. They just throw their hands up. They're like, whatever.
Call me Jake.
Yeah, we don't care.
8th on your list, surprisingly for me, was Alex.
You were right. Matthews has 21 goals, but in 28 games.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good.
After a pretty strong and pretty impressive performance at the World Junior, Alex Nylander. Now he played in the game yesterday because he's playing with Mississauga. And I'll leave it up to you to describe how he played, but a little surprised that he's ranked 8th. I mean, I've heard speculation as high as number 5 for Nylander.
Well, I mean, it could be with some clubs. With me, it's not, because I don't want to go with like the brother factor here, because I think while there's some similarities, they do play a little differently. And look, I think this kid's vision is exceptional. I do, and I love his wheels. What I've noticed is there's a little bit of difference when you see him like on OHL ice and on hybrid ice.
Right.
And so that tells me that, hey, look, at the end of the day, he's going to be playing on North American ice. But I think if you put Pierre-Luc Dubois on hybrid ice, you would see even more. And so I think there's a little bit higher skill level. Doesn't mean he's going to score more points, but a little higher skill level on Dubois than there is on Nylander. I think Nylander's got the flashy shot and the wheels. They both play good defense. But again, now I'm drafting size too. And now I'm drafting a center over a winger. You know, and these are things to me that I know matter. You know, again, we're splitting hairs. They're two great players. But,
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a factor with, I mean, the brother, I mean, there will be a lot of NHL teams who see William and think, okay, Alex has got NHL pedigree, and he does. But he's, you know, William is a center. He's going to play center in the NHL. They played him at center in the AHL, you know, with the Marlies.
Right.
Nylander, Alex is going to be a winger.
And his dad was a winger, right?
His dad was a center.
Oh, center. He was.
His dad was a center.
No, you know what? I think he got changed to the wing when he was with the Rangers for a little bit.
Yeah, his speed
getting older.
His speed declined.
That's what it was. Yes, that's right.
But in Calgary, he was a center, and he played center for a little while because I remember there, you know, what was it, the Swedish Gretzky,
yes,
and all that stuff about him setting up.
Right.
But you know, that being said, I think you know, I have noticed it's almost over a year now that William has been in North America. It did take him a little while to adjust from the Olympic size European rinks in Sweden to the NHL size rinks that are in the AHL. I think he's fine now. And actually, William Nylander's playing tonight in Grand Rapids, returning after a month off after the hit he took at the World Junior.
Right. I mean, look, Alex has been playing on North American ice. I almost say good ice. That's not fair. That's just a word that popped in my head. But I just think at the end of the day, I'm looking, and maybe my feelings will change. Maybe Nylander will go on a big run. But I just think I'm looking at a guy that 3 inches bigger, 30 pounds stronger. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit more there. That's all.
And just to finish off the list, and then we'll talk about a few other things here. Michael McLeod, from also Nylander's teammate at Mississauga, is ranked 9th. And Clayton Keller, who played for the U.S. in the World Junior, is ranked 10th. Now,
yep.
Keller,
and we watched him. We watched him too.
Yeah, and we watched him too. McLeod is a prototypical, 6'2", 6'3", right now at 187 pounds. Probably will end up, when he gets to the NHL, around 200 pounds. So he's a big, not a giant, but a big kid, and able to withstand the abuse that you take as an NHL center.
Yeah.
Keller is sort of, and I'm not comparing him, but it's sort of like that Marner situation. 5'10", 168 pounds. You say he plays bigger, but that's the concern. I mean, we have not shaken and I'm using a negative word here, but the prejudice of some NHL scouts of players who play positions that they normally would think, okay, this guy's got to be big, and that's up the middle, defense, and maybe even goaltender. Now it's like if a goaltender's 5'11", I don't think they would even get considered anymore.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, in the game that I saw him at Princeton, not what we saw for the All-American prospects, he was going up against a guy 20 pounds heavier, 2 or 3 years older, and he was winning faceoffs. And that's impressive because, again, that's something now where I think even he's a little stronger even than Marner was in his draft year, because that's something that's not easy to pull off. We know how physical the NCAA can be, and Keller holds up really well in that. He does. When he was playing in that environment, he was holding up really well. Now, obviously, the environment that he's in most of the time, he's just dominating. 71 points in 37 games. I mean, that's just complete domination. But I think he's the fastest guy on his team, too. And we know that's a pretty elite team.
Right.
And so I think that's another factor. So I think we look at those things and I say, you know, to me, I don't see the prejudice there for me. But I think for others, I do.
I think a lot of people are becoming more open-minded about that. But I think there's still a sizable portion of the NHL scouting world and some in management as well who there are Johnny Gaudreaus out there. There are Tyler Johnsons out there that are small that are strong and fast and have an advantage. But I think for a player, hey Ak.
Hello everyone.
Hey.
How are you?
How is Music City?
It's a blast so far. Yeah, I mean, I got the chance to walk downtown, see everybody. I said hi to my buddies at XM.
Nice.
Scott and Boomer were down there, and going down to the Fan Fest, which is really nice. Like empty right now, but filling up because people are getting there slowly. But I ran into Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman came up and said, "Hey, Ak, what's up?" I didn't even recognize him. I just walked past him. That's how focused I was on getting back to the show.
Well, we were talking about the CHL prospect game because we were going to wait until you got here to talk about what you posted on your blog.
And now we're done.
Yeah. No, there was only one other thing on that prospect, but I'll save it till later in case Ek has to drop off. We have something else to talk about.
Okay.
But
it'll be okay as long as the Wi-Fi is okay.
Good.
I'm using my phone, going through my phone here.
Okay, cool.
Hotel.
The Teddy Purcell thing that you posted in your blog, I thought was particularly interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you. So did I.
But
yeah. As did I. No, I really.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think I'm a Teddy Purcell fan. Like I have been for a while. And I liked him in Tampa. I thought Tampa when they got him, I thought that was pretty much of a great move. He was always kind of underrated, I thought, in Tampa for what he can do. He's he's inconsistent, but when he's playing really well, he's very, very good, and he can score goals. And this is the kind of player that the Blackhawks like to get. Like this is the perfect type of addition to that. Yeah,
and he's a UFA, so there's no long-term ramifications. And I'm looking up the salary right now, but I think he's in the 4.5 million. So Edmonton would probably have to retain salary to.
Oh yeah, they will
be able to make that.
He's one of those guys. Yeah, he's one of those guys with Edmonton that by the time Edmonton gets half decent, he's not in the picture anymore, right? So,
right.
That and he's. But I thought bringing him in was a good idea. If you're going to make the playoffs, I thought he was a good addition.
We thought that about a lot of players. I mean, let's be real about it.
Totally legit. I mean, I agree with you completely. It's true.
They brought in some players, and then you sort of shake your head why it doesn't work out.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to bring in that sort of veteran leadership a few years ago, bringing in Andrew Ference, bringing in Matt Hendricks, character guys. But the problem is that at least in Ference is at in terms of his career is at death's door. He's in the last few fumes of his career. He can't play. He can't play anymore. He can't stay healthy. And I think he's supposed to have some sort of surgery, and he may be out for the rest of the year.
Why don't you just say he's in the last furlong, Mike? Why don't you just?
Yeah, I know. I'm Mr.
Factory. Go ahead. I could see it.
I was, I'm going down the negative road. What can I say? But regarding Edmonton, it was funny. So doing some research before the show, is that Elliot Friedman was reporting that there is some Edmonton is obviously looking for defensemen. Chiarelli's been looking for defensemen for a while, and we've heard the name of Hamonic, but the other name was the name that we talked about a couple days ago, which was Vatanen.
Yep.
And that they're exploring deals involving Eberle and Hamonic, or Eberle and Vatanen, and that it makes sense. The only thing is that Eberle's contract is $6 million.
Also an interdivisional trade, right? I mean, that's which is not uncommon these days completely, but it is would be kind of surprising. It never seems like those two teams are in the same division, but they are. Edmonton and Anaheim. It just seems like they shouldn't be in the same division, but they are. And yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, the Jordan Eberle thing is. I would have told you he would have been a surefire hit, and he still might be. But something's happened where he's just settled into just being an average player instead of being that above average guy.
I have the exact answer for Jordan Eberle because he was one of my favorite players coming up in juniors, and obviously he was so key and
Clutch and everything. Yeah.
I mean, he was the for lack of a better word, the what's his name? Not Briere, but the other guy on Buffalo.
Drury.
Yeah, he was the Canadians' answer to the Canadian answer to Drury. Just he scores huge goals at huge times, right?
Yeah.
But that's his game, right? And how many times, Russ, has he been able to do that in Edmonton? Like Edmonton has not been. They have, but they really have not been in that situation.
No, it's true, and that's fair.
Right.
In that kind of a game, the kind of game that Eberle would excel in, Anaheim is going to be in the. If he goes there, he's going to play in the playoffs. Yeah, I could see him scoring. He hasn't been in the playoffs yet,
Yeah. I mean, he's got 306 points in 393 games, which is decent. It is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but does seem like he's mired there.
Well, I think
what he does is not regular season. It's not like to me. That's not to me. You get him because he's going to score big goals, right?
I think he's relegated to being more of the complementary role, to be be the outlet for the Taylor Hall, the outlet for McDavid or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He hasn't had the opportunity to sort of take the bit and run with it.
Yeah, if they were an expansion team like a Vegas team, he'd be the perfect guy to start with an expansion team.
Because he's young enough.
Yep.
Yeah. But he really has to play in big games to get.
He does, yeah.
But I'm skeptical of the Islanders thing in terms of that rumor because Boychuk is out. He's supposed to come back before the deadline, but he's still out. They're in a tight race. I can't see them. The only way I could see them trading Hamonic right now for a forward is if they know that they can get a defenseman by trading Opozo, and I don't know if they can.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to trade Hamonic this year. I really don't. Just from everything I've heard, they're just not, because he is so difficult to replace, and they are in a playoff race, and his value is they have him, so it's not like he's not like a pending UFA. They've got him, so they can wait. You can't, if you're going to make a playoff run, you're going to need him. If you're going to make the playoffs, you're going to need him. He's way more valuable. It's funny how unsung he was before all of this. Like, he really was one of these guys that you never really heard anybody talk about Hamonic, like, ever.
Well, no. You know what? I talked about Hamonic like 2 or 3 years ago when he was starting to emerge, and there wasn't a lot of talk about him. There was just a lot of negativity about the Islanders and their defense. Yeah. And so I remember saying, I really like Travis Hamonic. Like, this kid can play. And but that's it. It never went any further than that. And then he did sort of just get buried there.
Well, I talked about him when he signed the long-term extension because it was unusual because it was I think it was 8 years or 7 or 8 years, but the cap hit was less than $4 million, and it's like, okay, you don't usually see if it's a 7-year deal that it's going to be that economical of a salary, and that's one of the reasons why I think they're in a sort of a strange situation right now with him because
it also makes him very valuable, right? It makes him extremely valuable for them. So they and to move him, they can get a lot for him. And then one of the reasons his value is higher is definitely his value is at least 10 to 20% higher because of that contract.
Yes,
right.
So so a lot of stuff. Let's talk a lot of stuff that's going on here. This is really right now the John Scott All-Star game, right? So it's just like it's pretty crazy how this has played out, And part of me, I mean, it's hard not to root for John Scott now, and it's funny because I don't think I ever would have said that sentence before. But here you are. It's like you're hearing all the stories about him, about him saying, if I don't make this team, I'll get a real job to his wife. All this stuff that was like all these great background stories that are going on.
But it's not all roses either. I mean, let's let's not elevate John Scott too much. I don't mean with his play. I mean with just the way he handled the whole thing too. It's not like he was the perfect guy handling this. And even today, I watched the interview that he did with at the All-Star game, and he basically was saying that, well, he didn't like the articles that were being written, so he contacted the Players Tribune. So basically, he's telling me, I wanted them to write the article the way I wanted to see it. So it does tell you a little something about him.
Yeah.
That
he's controlling the message very strongly. He's very strong in controlling the message. I do agree with that.
He didn't want to hear the other talk, but the other talk was definitely there. And he even said, look, after this, I go back to the real world. I got to go back to Newfoundland. So he's being good about that. I heard an interesting thing. Scott Stevens was on the NHL Network, and he goes, look, John Scott's here, and we all have to live with it. And I don't know if he really realized the ramifications of sort of what he's saying, but I think in his mind, like Scott Stevens realizes, he wouldn't want to be on the ice with John Scott. Now, other players are taking it well. And because at the end of the day, he's a player, and he should be treated as such, and he's an NHLer, and no matter what, he had to make it to the NHL. So we always give players credit for that. But that was to me like the competitor part of Scott Stevens sort of like saying, really, you could be on the same team as me? Like that's how I took that.
Well, there's one good thing. He's going to be on the Pacific Division team with a couple former teammates in Joe Pavelski and Brent Burns. And I saw some comment where Pavelski and Burns basically said, "Put your stick on the ice, and we'll get you the puck."
Yeah.
So it's like do I think he's going to score a goal? He'll probably score a goal. It's probably going to be something like that. But honestly, this is the last we're going to see this because they're going to change the rules next year. They're not going to let this happen again. They're going to control this. They're going to stifle it, and I think the game will be lesser for it. I think this is one of the only main reasons I'm going to watch it. I want to watch 3-on-3, but I also want to see what John Scott does. And I think a lot of people do.
Here's the thing.
It's funny how easy he will be to get an interview from 3 days from now. Like that always cracks me up. Like right now, like you can't get near him. Like right now,
oh,
it's just like being surrounded by media.
How's he going to do in 3-on-3 though? People are like, players are elevating him more than the John Scott we watched, and they're saying, well, he's a really good skater. Can he skate 20 minutes worth? He's never skated 20 minutes worth.
Sure. He doesn't play 20 minutes in a week. So I know I'm with you. I mean, that's completely legitimate. Really a couple of interesting things I heard today. One that that Jágr, played his first All-Star game 24 years ago, which is an interesting thing. And there are 11 players on this team that weren't born when Jágr played in his first All-Star game. That's pretty crazy. That's really something. I just thought that was really, really cool. The other thing I keep hearing is and there's a big thing going on around the Olympics around here that the U.S. that the NHL is thinking about. I'm sure it's being reported elsewhere, but I heard it from a bunch of reporters today that the U.S. is not going to go to the 2018 Olympics.
Well, we're not shocked at this.
What was that?
We're not shocked at that, right? I mean, we kind of knew.
We're shocked at that because I thought. I mean, I know where it is, and I think that would definitely play into that, But I think I'm a little bit shocked because I thought that we were looking more at the next Olympics that they weren't going to go to. I thought that they would go to one more Olympics.
No, 2022 is the one I thought they would possibly go to because it's China and it's the emerging market and all that stuff. But honestly, I think this is still an open question because I think the NHL is trying to apply some leverage on the IOC to get some sort of financial recompense. They're trying to get the same deal like the NBA that the NBA gets.
Right.
I think that's the whole thing. It's like, especially with escrow and with hockey related revenue, I think they're trying to squeeze as many dollars out of as many things as possible, including the Olympics. I heard this morning about potential games in Europe, regular season games in Europe, not exhibition games, to make extra money. I think they're going all out to get more revenue.
Yeah, but teams and leagues just throw that information out there, and it's really just chatter and trial balloons. An example is like Major League Baseball yesterday was like, yeah, we should play some games in London preseason, and it's like, Yeah, all right. So when are you going to set that up, Rob? Like, that's the commissioner's Rob Manfred. It's like, when are you going to set that up? You're just throwing that out there now. And I think a lot of sports are doing that. They're just throwing things out there. I think with this, I think they're not going to go, but I don't think that precludes them from going in the future. I think they don't like where it is. They don't like the time thing. They don't like all those other things. And I think the IOC will come back to them and say, hey, after this one, do you want to be in the next one? And then they'll determine that all over again. They'll still get viewers. I mean, I'm still going to watch because I'm an addict. But, I mean, the casual person will not watch, though.
Definitely get viewers. It'll be interesting to see how it's going to be like a little bit like a World Junior tournament, but it's going to have another aspect to it. And I think it definitely has a higher stage in the World Junior tournament, but it's going to have the same kind of thing, which is going to be fascinating because if there's a World Junior tournament and then there's an Olympics right next to each other, that is really going to be interesting because you're having those are like 2 months, a month apart.
Yeah, my guess is they'll have undrafted players, so then even if there's like the next Austin Matthews, like they could play in the Olympics.
It's going to be like the Spengler Cup is what it's going to be
like. No, but it could be different because there'll be some of those guys. But let's say Nolan Patrick wants to play in the Olympics.
Sure.
He probably could do it.
I mean, it's going to be like Albertville in '92 when you had Lindros, when you had Peter Nedved playing for Canada. I mean, yeah, it's going to be all like sort of a hodgepodge of like picking up different. I mean, in a way, that'll be as compelling. I mean, obviously,
players will come out of retirement. There'll be some of that.
There you go.
Yeah.
It won't be as compelling as the NHL players, but it'll still be something. There'll still be national.
Patrick Burke's in charge of the U.S. team. Chris Drury will come out of retirement. Like it's a guarantee.
Yeah, right. Why not, right?
Daniel Pierre will probably play. Who knows?
Yeah, you get guys like that. You could. I mean, why not, right? I mean, maybe Patrick Waugh will play.
He almost played the other night. It was so close.
So close, I know. I don't know if you guys saw the odds of the MVP for the All-Star game that are out there, but John Scott is the favorite. He's a plus 400. I don't know quite what that means, but the only other players that are in his realm are Yager's a plus 1,500, and Shea Weber and Pecorette are plus 500 apiece. So they're closer to it.
They're the hometown guys.
Yeah, let's just say if John Scott wins the MVP, we're not having a game next year. It's over with.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, honestly. Now, I heard you this morning as I was driving to the airport, Russ, on XM Radio, and I heard.
Okay, at least I had one listener.
Always, right. And I heard you give the over/under for this game at 55.
I did at 55.
But that's for all 3 periods.
For all 3 periods, for the whole shebang.
All 3 games, right? It's 55. And I was intrigued by that because there are Vegas odds on the game over/unders, and they're 10.5 a game. So that would be 33 or whatever.
33. That's where Simpson was going, but I think a little differently than people. And my feeling is that there are going to be moments, like let's just say, like we saw the move Jake Voracek did in overtime, right? You get a few of those moves out of Kuznetsov, and I think defensemen are just going to lag, and goalies are going to lag, and they're just going to have to deal with it. So
I would hate to be a goaltender in this game. Oh my God!
I mean, I could be a guy like Kuznetsov getting 4 goals a game.
Like if I'm putting money on anything for MVP, I'm going with the goalie. Because I think the goalie is going to win this game. I think the goalies are going to win this game. I think
No, this is going to be bad for goalies. This is bad.
No, because if one goalie gets relatively hot and makes a bunch of saves, he'll win it. Because that's all you need to do. Like if you say Holtby just decides that Holtby could do it. Decides to stand on his head or something like that, and gives up 2 goals in the first game or whatever, and then who else are you going to go with? I mean.
But the goalies have no defense, relatively no defense in front of them.
2 words.
I know. That's why you have to look at the athletic goalies. Like to me, Pecorette is going to be really good. He's going to be good. There's other athletic goalies out there too, but
even Patrice Bergeron said, "Hey, I don't know how I'm going to be 20 minutes out there," because he realizes they don't do that right now in 3-on-3, so it's uncharted territory for all these players.
Well, nobody thought about this, but what if they do what teams have been starting to do in 3-on-3s during the regular season now, where they sort of continue to sort of wind at the blue line. Wait.
Oh yeah, you're seeing a lot of that. What's interesting is What's going to be
fans will do that. Fans won't like that at an All-Star game. they're going to feel that pressure. At a home game, it's a different story. This is an all-star game. Tickets cost a lot. They're looking for entertainment. And just like I said this morning, if they try the Princeton offense, I could see players trying to nix that.
Also, that takes a lot of coordination, and these guys haven't practiced together. So it's like, I mean, you know, that a lot of what we're seeing in the NHL is some very concentrated efforts to put together strategies by teams.
A lot of broken plays.
And there are some teams that decide they want to keep all three of their players close together. You've seen that a lot, that you keep all your players together. There's other teams that, you know, refuse to dump the puck. There's line changing methods where, you know, players will just stall, you know, they'll circle around in the corner while their team changes. So what's cool about this game is that there's really I don't think there's a set way the people are playing across the NHL. It really is. It has evolved into different strategies around the league. So these guys aren't going to be able to play the one system.
I'll tell you who I think the top goal guy will be. And I should have looked. I posted the who's in the skills and stuff, and I forgot to look. But I'm pretty sure Goudreau's in it, right? I know he's there, and he'll be the top goal guy because he will be impossible to cover.
Oh,
yeah, Goudreau.
Come on, it's gonna be Leo Komarov. It's gotta be.
No, it'll be Goudreau. I'm telling you, you watch him in 3-on-3s. I just saw him in the last few 3-on-3s he's been in. Impossible to cover.
He's going to be the same thing. He's going to be. Those two guys are. I mean, I'm really pissed off about Kuznetsov going to this thing. I mean, I think he deserves to be there, but just like the fact that the Capitals, I don't know, the Capitals should have been punished by not having an All-Star or something. You know, it's just, to me, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. That's a fair point because they sort of gave up their All-Star.
They did, and yet, you know, there's still like around when you walk downtown here in Nashville, there's giant pucks like the size of a minivan with players' pictures on them. You know, we just walked past the John Scott one. There's a John Scott puck. There's a puck with every player has a player.
Right.
And you know, there's a big right in front of the arena, big Alexander Ovechkin puck.
They're still going to market him. He's still alive.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know. These things were made up ages ago, and
they're talking about for next year increasing the suspension if they beg off the All-Star game.
Yeah, I heard that, and that's I don't think you should do that. But
so how strong is the rumor? It seems pretty strong at this point that next year is Los Angeles.
That seems very strong. Yeah, that seems like where it's going.
And we're hearing the cries already from Toronto.
Well, see, the thing is, honestly, I think that's the least of the events that Toronto was aiming for that they would be upset if they didn't get. I think it's the draft. It's an outdoor game. You know, I think they want the draft definitely, but the outdoor game is something they crave.
I think this event is almost like the Winter Classic to the NHL right now, because this event does do better. Like, I was in Carolina, it did really well in Carolina. It's doing really well here. It does really well in your not traditional hockey markets. I'm not saying LA is a not traditional, but you know, LA is a traditional hockey market at this point. But it's still not Toronto. You know, like when I went to the Montreal one, and that was a different feel than the Montreal All-Star game. It was cool because it was Montreal, obviously, but you know, it wasn't like Carolina. They just got really into it. Here, people are totally into it. It's really fun to watch. Like and
that's the thing when we were talking about the World, because the World Junior, the preliminary round of the World Junior is in Toronto next December and early January. If they do the Winter Classic, it would be at the same time. So now you're going to put the All-Star game, which is in late January. You have all these things going on. That's why maybe they have an outdoor game later, and they don't have the All-Star game, but they do get the draft.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. That's definitely the case. I mean, there's no question. Hello? Yes? Sorry, someone's at my door.
Russ went to let his dog out, and somebody's at your door. I'll just carry on the show without you.
I think I'm all right. I don't want to leave you by yourself.
Well, I can...
Hold on one second.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Okay, no, Russ, it happened all at once. Somebody knocked on his door, and you went and like, okay, I'm alone, thanks, guys.
It must have been a pizza delivery guy.
Wow, I got a special delivery. Look, a bottle of Bailey's.
Wow.
I like Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville's a fun place.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a certain bar that I've heard is very exciting called Tootsie's that
It's right next to the arena. I'm going to have a swig.
There's no drinking allowed on webcast. Come on.
That's Friday. Friday's the only day we drink on webcast.
We have to be. Should we have a drunken webcast one of these days? Does all of us drink?
Sure.
Why not? It's allowed.
I don't drink usually. Russ is back, but according to my camera, he's not, which is really funny. I just see him. I just see a blank chair because I'm like an underlay, I think.
For me, yours, I could see you, but it says Hockey Buzz. That's all.
Oh, you can't even see me?
No, I could see you on the big screen, but on the small one on the tile, it says Hockey Buzz.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, that worked totally fine, as long as it looks good to you, Mike.
What do you think about adding another team next year, like I talked about this morning, of young stars?
I like the young stars idea. I actually think that you could add another team per division. I think because there's
then you're gonna have let's see, you have 72 All-Stars if you did that. I mean, that's a little much.
No, maybe you don't need to give an entire team. But I think that they could go another line. They could definitely go another line. Like because right now they've got 3 lines, right? So they've got 3 lines. They could go 4 lines easily. They're gonna be exhausted. I think Russ, you're right about that. They're gonna be exhausted. I think this, 55. I was trying to think of over under. I think these games are going to be either incredibly high scoring or not. Like I think that what you're going to see is close games. If games are going back and forth within 1 or 2 goals, they're going to be very high scoring. But if one team does jump out like by a 4-goal lead, I do think you'll see that team shut it down.
The question is, and what I will be very curious about is whether the money will make players hit.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I understand what you're saying about the slow it down thing, but if there's a tie, is there a goal differential thing? Because if there is, then there's not going to be a slow it down.
No, it's a single elimination. It's
single elimination. Okay, so
Pacific versus Central. Whoever wins, they go to the.
How's the overtime work? Do we have any idea on that?
What's that?
How's an overtime work in this? Do we have any idea? Like if
that's true. If it's a tie game, Mike, what happens?
Is it a 2-on-2? What do we do?
I would think they just no, they go right to the shootout.
Oh God! Can you imagine if this whole thing they did a whole All-Star game of 3-on-3s and they decided with a shootout? That would be the worst thing ever.
And Martin Straka comes out of the stands.
That would make no sense to have the shootout in this thing. This is exactly the opposite of the shootout.
And John Scott wins it on a spinorama in the shootout.
Yeah.
I stand by my number of 55. That's all I can say.
55.
I'll go 44.
I'll go over. So you got the under, and I got the over. Yeah, I think it's going to go over. I think you're on something there. 55. It's hard to say. Depends what it becomes. Like it really does. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's because when you get tired, you play less defense. That's what's going to happen.
There could be one team that just gets like 15 goals one game.
Yeah. And if somebody jumps out to a big lead, though, they're not going to want to run up to score. That's the problem with the All-Star game, right? So
they're going to want to conserve energy for the.
But again, I think fans will boo if action isn't happening.
Yeah.
Just send out Carrie Underwood. She could sing a concert in between periods, or.
I talked to somebody today, a fan on the street, who was really nice. Came up to me and said hi, and a couple did. It was really cool. And I said, "So what are you doing? What are you looking forward to tomorrow?" He's like, "The game." And he said, he's like, I've got to root for Patrick Kane. Like Patrick Kane's on my team. And I said, and that's not just for anything. It's just a Blackhawk. Like it's just the concept of the Predators. There's a severe hatred of the Blackhawks.
I hate them. Yeah.
And yet, if their team wins, the Blackhawks, the Blackhawks may have something to do with it, right? So here, that's a strange thing for them, for rooting for. I don't know who I like in the, that's the other thing everyone's asking today. Who do you think the favorite is? I kind of think it comes down to goalies. I like the Metro because of the goalies. I think Schneider and Holtby are the 2 best goalies.
Here's the funny thing. The NHL is very complicated, right? Because we always try and think of, well, what are they thinking in this, and how are they going to react to this, and everything else. And this is on the NHL's Instagram account.
What?
So that tells me is they've sold a lot of jerseys and they're making money, so they're okay with it.
What is it? I couldn't see
it was a John Scott jersey. It was John Scott.
Oh yeah. I saw John Scott today. I saw somebody walking with a John. I saw somebody walking with a John Scott jersey.
John Scott has never sold a jersey in the NHL. I've never seen anybody before today with a John Scott jersey.
No. There was a some John Scott jersey sold in Buffalo, especially after he had tried to kill Nashville.
Okay.
I want to throw this out there. Before the Phoenix Coyotes traded John Scott, they were on an 8-1 run. Okay. Since they traded John Scott, they're 2-6. Okay, just throw that out there.
MVP.
Trading John Scott was a terrible move for the Coyotes.
Can we force John Scott into any more conversation?
Yeah, I mean, can we not talk about him after today in a podcast ever? Well, we'll rather talk about him on Monday when he's awarded the MVP, and we have to discuss that. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I do get the sense though that there is a lot of excitement here. I think it is cool because we have never seen this before. Like the 3-on-3 concept is cool mainly because we have no idea. Mainly because we can sit there and say these games are going to be 3-2 or they're going to be 12-14. You know, like we just don't know.
And that's why I said you can't condemn it because it's the unknown. Like you could be upset about the Scott thing, all the other stuff, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen in this game. You have no idea.
Yeah. This is delicious, by the way. Just say, I'm not.
You're guzzling.
I don't.
It's not a bottle.
You guys know I don't drink. That's the funny thing about this. I've never had a beer in my life. I do not drink, right? So, and I never drink when I'm home.
Like it's a bottle of Mexican.
Well, no, because I could ever drink because there's no game tonight. I'm here in a town. I have no responsibilities but myself. This is nice.
I'm gonna let you know something. Well, you know that your neighbors are watching and they can report home, but I'm gonna just let you know that stuff is for sipping over the rocks, not for.
Oh, Bailey's? Oh, I know. Trust me. Yeah, no.
All right.
I'm an expert Bailey's drinker. I know all about
it. It like it's a chocolate milk.
I don't have time to go get ice right now. I'm doing
you're drinking it like a yoo-hoo. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's really good. It's really good.
What else is happening? What other good things are happening around town?
Well, I was down at the let's see, my notes here. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to go to one of these things, this fan fest things they have are really cool, especially if you're like a 12-year-old boy. Like they are amazing.
So much bigger, haven't they? Wow.
Oh, they're huge. I mean, there's so many arenas. I counted 6 different places you can skate. You know, with artificial ice or real ice in the area. So then
what's the weather like down there?
It's 50, like roughly 48, 50. So it's cold, it's warmer than it is up there, but it's not warm. It feels really good, like good fall weather.
So people will be walking around shirtless tonight, some of the media.
Yeah, let's hope not. No. I already saw Frank Saravelli once today. So, yeah.
You haven't seen him at 1 o'clock in the morning, though. That's the thing.
Him and Darren Drager are talking for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of there's a whole lot of. I mean, the sponsor thing is for real. There's a cool like Samsung virtual reality gear stand where you can put on, you know, and pretend you're in the middle of a hockey game. That's kind of cool. There's a whole bubble hockey section which I'm dying to get back to tonight. Like
nice.
I like, you know, I want to challenge any takers. There's a cool like 12 bubble hockey tables.
Are you gonna like challenge 10-year-olds?
Oh yeah. Anyway, you know, 10-year-old kick my ass in NHL on 15 online, so I'm allowed to take them on in bubble hockey.
Did you see? No, I saw a picture of this, and all I could do was laugh because it's just sort of tragic. They had a thing, and it said liquid gold for Velveeta. Did you see that?
I did. Yeah, I know. They should watch how they do that. That was not thought through.
No, it was not.
You know, I was gonna tweet it out like and say like a me without a cheesesteak, you know, because like that's, you know, Velveeta. What I think of with Velveeta is cheesesteaks, but yeah, I realized what else was being implied there. Yeah. There's a lot of gold and purple around here because of the Predators. So there's a lot of, you know, like this, like the, you know, our passes are, you know, gold and purple. And so I'm meeting Kevin Allen in about a half hour for dinner.
Nice.
So he's here and he's gonna be discussing stuff with him. But yeah, so it's fun. I mean, it's definitely, if you ever get a chance to go to an All-Star game, I definitely recommend it.
It's always fun. I always have a good time.
It is, and you know, the skills competition tomorrow, it'll be what it is. I think the skills competition, I know they do a good job at trying to rethink it all the time, but it really needs to be like brainstormed with a bunch of creative people at some point, because there's still a more creative way to do it. They're getting better.
But you're right. There's still a tweak or two they could do. And I don't mean another Guardian project. I mean like the actual skills.
Another Guardian project. Yes, remember that? Yep, that was Montreal, wasn't it?
No, Carolina.
Oh, that was Carolina. You're right. You're right about that. Yeah, that was weird. That was weird. That was a weird time.
That was when Twitter was sort of new, and I can remember, like, I was pretty new on Twitter, and those were some of my first tweets, was tweeting about this Guardian project.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because but what's weird about it is it was before, like, that kind of stuff was popular. Like, actually, if they did it now, it might have a better shot.
Maybe.
But just maybe, yeah, I agree. Just like maybe.
I mean, again, you got to remember the Maple Leaf superhero was a tree.
Yeah, well,
trees. You can't have a superhero that's a tree. There's, Corey Cross was as a tree, but other than that.
No, Corey Cross was a pylon.
Reminds me of my old days in Indian Scouts as a kid. My friend was in Indian Scouts too, and his dad was named. You were given Indian names. It was like a Cub Scouts thing, but not as much of a recruiting place for the Army. So it was more like an Indian Scouts thing. And my friend's dad was named the Mighty Maple. And my friend was called Running Sap, which I thought was hilarious.
Running Sap.
I know.
That's fabulous.
I know that is. It took years later. He thought to himself, wait a second.
Yeah.
At the time, he was like, "Yes, I am Running Sap."
The Indians could have been nicer to him.
Yes, and they could, and the people in Nashville could have been nicer to the Indians too. I mean, that was sorry. There's a whole museum right down the street here that I went to one time.
Go to the Charlie Daniels Museum. It's a horror show, but it's funny.
Oh, it is funny. I mean, it's a totally. I mean, the people in Nashville could not be nicer. This is the place, okay, where when I came here for the Predators were playing the Vancouver Canucks, and there was no room in the press box, so they gave us seats in the crowd. So we're just in the crowd. It was really amazing, and I'm sitting next to some Canucks fans, really nice couple from Vancouver who had traveled down. And people in Vancouver, you can't get really much nicer than people from Vancouver in general. Those are the nicest people on the planet, and they're saying to me,
except the ones who were throwing bombs on.
Yeah, those people weren't from Vancouver, but yeah, they were in Vancouver at the time, But the Vancouver people said to me, they said, wow, are all Americans this nice? Like, that's how nice Nashville people are. When a person from Vancouver says,
don't worry, come to Buffalo. We'll show you what Americans are really like.
Yeah, no, it's not. I said it's not typical. But that is the Nashville way of things. It's cool to be here for this. Like, the last thing I'll say about it is, years ago I came down here for a rally when they were trying to sell season tickets to try to stave off, like actually being sold and leaving the market. And that was really a hairy moment because I remember I was here, and I was Vernon Fiddler and a couple other players who were sitting with me and answering phones and trying to take season ticket orders and stuff like that. And it was a crazy time. And
are you going to start any Shea Weber to the Flyers rumors just because?
Oh no. Shea Weber will never be traded. But it's to see this now, when knowing how close it was then, and that was only 7 years ago, I guess. Mm-hmm. Seeing how close it was then to this team being moved to Hamilton, and being sold to Jim Balsillie, it was close, and the NHL told them at that time they had to sell a certain amount of season tickets, and they had a rally over the course of a weekend, and I was here for all of it, and I was on the radio for like 10 hours one day, just like selling pledges to a PBS. It was like selling PBS pledges and to selling season tickets. So to see it come from there to this is really kind of cool. Like, to see the NHL come here, and everybody loves it, and everybody's happy here.
I gotta run though, because my dogs are tired of waiting for me.
I gotta go too, but that's a really good. Thanks, guys, for doing the show yesterday, and thanks for starting today without me. We'll be back on Monday. Everybody enjoy the weekend. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey, and Mike is gonna have to stop the show because I don't have control.